Welcome to the Couple-preneurs Show, helping couples in business develop structure and strategies that nurture the balance between business and home, bringing you interviews and insights to give you the secret sauce of power couples. Here are your hosts, Oscar and Kaya Frazier.
Entrepreneurs, couplepreneurs, people in business, folks looking to get started in business. If any of those things sound like you are in the right place. I'm so excited today to be here on the Couple-preneurs Show to discuss with a very important guest that we've got with us today. But I see that Kaya is now looking at me with the side eye, so more than likely I have forgotten something. Kaya, what did I forget already?
Sponsors.
Okay, go. There you go.
Before we start anything, we have to give recognition to our sponsors. First off, Carolina Runners. They're a family-owned trucking company. If you are an owner-operator that is looking for an authority, please check them out. You can find them at Carolina-runners.com. The slash and the dash.
I always
single
get that
time.
mixed up. Always.
Again, that's Carolina-runners.com. And then second, Talk Shirt to Me. Shirts that speak and help you express your style. Check them out at talkshirttome.com. It's spelled exactly how it sounds.
Gosh, you do that so well. One day I'll be able to get lucky enough to do something like that, but it won't be today. So nonetheless, so everyone, again, as I mentioned, I'm super excited for today. And before I introduce her, I'd like to give just a quick and dirty as far as why I'm so excited about this. As most of you know that have been listening to us, Kai and I started out on our career track and our entrepreneurial path really back in 2004, but we really kind of got thrusted into it in 2012 when we actually lost everything. And I remember about some of the startup mistakes and just going out and trying to be someone and to try to personify something that we weren't quite there yet and trying to get to that point. And then we started learning as we were running, right? And so hopefully this show for people that are new to business and or expanding their business, this will help you, right? To perhaps skip over some of those mistakes that we made.
Absolutely.
So today we've got Ronjini, Joshua, that is with us. Hello, Ronjini. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So everyone, Ronjini is a PR expert. And so that way, I don't want to steal her thunder. So, Ronjini, if you can, just kind of give us like your background and how you got into entrepreneurship and what you're doing now.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been in the PR industry for 20 years, specifically in technology. And I actually stumbled across entrepreneurship on accident. Well, I don't know if it was an accident, but I was working somewhere, in-house at a big agency, and I was like literally just doing nothing at work because I had been brought on to start a new office, and that office hadn't really gotten up and running. And I was just sitting there, and I saw our agency, a big PR agency, turn down clients, startups, companies that had smaller budgets than $10,000 a month. And they were just knocking them out, and they're saying no because, as a big agency, they're looking for larger clients. And so I was thinking, shoot, I could be doing work for those people. I'd be happy to do. I'm just doing nothing here. So I took a little leap of faith, and I just decided that I was going to go out and do freelancing and get on my own schedule and kind of just do a freelancing. I wasn't really trying to start a business, and I had, secured some clients before I quit my job, and I quit my job, and people thought I was crazy because I was there for like 4 months. And the person who hired me was extremely upset. And I went in and started working on my own. And before you know it, like 4 or 5 months down the line, I have a small office in downtown LA. And I start picking up some more clients, and it kind of starts turning into an agency. Not something I first saw, but it was like kind of a happy accident. And then I've been doing it for the last 10 years. So the Silver Telegram is a PR agency for startup companies. We work with both consumer technology and consumer gadgets, as well as enterprise technology companies as well.
I think one of the key nuggets that I can take away from, just kind of you explaining your background is that you found a niche. you saw an opportunity based on, you know, being in the corporate space and working for another company, and you saw how they were, you know, kind of turning away that smaller audience. And it was like, wow, well, hey, if nobody else is going to represent them, then, you know, I can. So I think that's awesome that you built from there.
Yeah, I felt like it was just like money going out the door, and like they had to pay somebody to do the work. So why not me?
There you go. Yeah. And another key nugget there is around your jump, right? And when you had to actually get out there and just take the leap. What did that look like for you? And you know, again, we don't want to get all inside your Kool-Aid or anything, but if you were in a relationship, if you are in a relationship, what did that look like in, you know, when you decided to take that leap out there? Was it a supportive thing? Was it a bit scary? Was it rocky? What happened?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a little nerve-wracking because it's not something I had done before. And I am very conservative when it comes to work. Like my dad worked for the same company for 20 years, you know, so that's the kind of example I'm coming off of. He's an engineer. I'm Indian. My background's in East Indian. So, you know, with your doctor, engineer, or lawyer, those are the three careers you go into. So I've already picked a career path that is like totally different than what I'm supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to have. And then my dad, he was very worried because I was like going from different jobs, and for him, that was like not a normal thing. That wasn't the respectable thing to do, jumping from job to job. So when I actually, and you know, during that time of my career and in that tech space, a lot of people were jumping. You go to the best opportunity. So it was common for us, but for him, as being old school, like go to a company, work there for 25 years, and then just retire and have a nice 401k. That's his plan. Yeah. And so I did not tell, I wasn't married at the time. No, I think we were engaged to be married, and he's fine with whatever I was doing. He was very supportive. It was great because we spent more time together. We had a dog. I got to take care of the dog. So there was all that like little home stuff that we got to do. But my parents were the real concern for me. So I actually did not tell them until about 6 months later, I knew that this was going to work for me, and I knew that I could sustain clients on my own. And I told them, I'm like, I forget, you know, some conversation we had, and my parents asked like, hey, you know, how's work? And I'm like, actually, you know, about that, about work, I left my company about 6 months ago, and I've been freelancing ever since. And since I had been working, like I already had the validation and proof points that I could do it on my own. And so I was surprised to hear that my dad was like, you know, I never had the courage to do that, and I always wanted to. And so I think if I had told them when I actually did it, they would have been more concerned. But the fact that I had been doing it, and then they saw that it could be something promising, they were a little bit more comfortable with it. So then I got the support after that. They were really excited about me going into my own business. And then my husband now, we actually got married the year that I started the business. You know, he was supportive the whole time, and he was happy to do whatever I was going to do. He was in the golf industry at the time. And so he was kind of traveling a lot as well. So we were both pretty busy. And yeah, that was kind of the entry point. It was a little bit scary, but, you know, learning along the way, like you guys, you know, you just kind of pick stuff up as you have to.
Yeah, totally. You know, and Kaya, if you were in the same room, Kaya was probably cringing right now because she knows I'm a sucker for a good like quirky and goofy kind of story. So I think back to this. There was this story I was reading. This was probably about a year ago, and this artist talks about how if you think about like an infant, right? When a baby is trying to learn how to walk, right? And you have everyone that's like kind of jumping behind him or her, and they're trying to walk them and helping to take the first step, etc. Then when you finally take the first step, everyone's all excited, right? But if you think about entrepreneurship, sometimes it's the exact opposite, right? So when you start telling everybody that you're ready to jump out there, you want to do it, everyone's like, well, what about all of these problems and issues that you're going to face? How are you going to survive? What's your money going to look like, etc. So I totally respect the fact that you waited the 6 months, before you actually decide to tell your parents about that. Because most people, if you, I don't know if you can relate to this or not, Ronjini, but in my experience, a lot of times that the moment someone gets that LLC or that C Corp or S Corp paperwork, they post it on the internet, right? They post it on social media. They're excited. And then they probably get 1,000 naysayers that's like, well, be careful for this, be careful for that. And now you start having all these negative connotations in what you do next. What kind of you?
I think you have to be very careful not to absorb that, because then that starts to breed fear into your dream.
Absolutely.
And I totally agree with you. Like, I held off telling my parents actually that we had stepped out into entrepreneurship for probably about a month until we actually got our first client and things started rolling. And it's funny, I can relate because it kind of just came up in conversation. So how's work going? And it's like,
about that part.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's important to protect your own set of what you're planning to do and protect that a little bit so that you don't get discouraged by other things. And this was for me, it was 10 years ago. So social media, everyone wasn't posting right away. It was just kind of starting to emerge and get big. So I think I have that in my favor. But yeah, I think you really do have to have a little level of protection. And then there's some people that say, tell everybody so that you are motivated to do it. And then there's a different school of thought that's more like, okay, let me protect myself until I can get up on my feet. And then I can go out with the guns blazing,
Yeah, totally agree with you there. So in working with startups, what have been some of the startup mistakes that you've seen? Is there a theme going on that you can discuss with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do I start? So I think for the most part, especially where we specialize, is a lot of startups fail to prepare to communicate. And so they're so excited about their idea that they're also very much in the weeds. They're very much in the weeds of everything, so that they're a little bit, they're too close. They're too close on how to communicate with the audience and getting the right message prepared. And so we often talk to people about just, starting your social media early, building an audience early, communicating the expertise and trying to do it at a level where I always say your grandmother can understand it. So if your grandmother can understand it, then most people are going to be able to understand what you're saying, depending on the level of technicality of what you're talking about, whether it's healthcare, whether it's technology, whether it's video games, whatever the case may be. You want to explain it so that your grandmother can understand it, so that it's an easily attainable message. And I think that's one thing is you see some of these websites and you have no idea what they're talking about. I was talking to a construction company a couple of months ago. They're building tiny homes, and definitely their homepage was for construction people because they had acronyms everywhere. I'm like, what are you even talking about? What are you offering exactly? So, dumbing down and simplifying your message and trying to kind of get a perspective of what your target customer is looking for with a simplified messaging, or even having your family, friends and family, trusted friends and family, of course, take a look and say, hey, do you get this? Is this a straightforward message? I think messaging is one really big thing where we get a lot of people just kind of having a messed up. And the second thing that falls right in line with that is advertising. They jump into advertising and doing all these things really early before they even have that message down.
Wow. Yeah, I know we made a lot of those mistakes in the very beginning. There's no doubt about that. I remember the first business plan that Kai and I tried to market, and we finally got a client. And we were sitting there because we had done all the marketing, put everything out that we really didn't think about. So what do we do next, right? So what's going to be, how do we even onboard a new client and those sorts of things?
Right.
Yeah, can totally relate. So give us a scenario, right? So on a PR, public relations perspective, someone comes into your office or they reach out to you as a startup and they say they got this idea, right? What happens next in your world when they come see the Silver Telegram?
Well, usually what I do is I actually take them backwards because people think they know what PR is. And I'm going to be totally honest with you, most people don't know what it is. And they come to me with an idea of what they think it is, publicity, PR. It can mean so many things to different people. So what I usually say is, hey, what exactly are you trying to achieve with PR? Because if they tell me what they're trying to achieve, I can actually reroute them to the right thing to do. And it may not always be a PR. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a business development person. So first I have to make sure that that's exactly what they need and that they're in the right time frame of that. Like they may not be ready for that. Sometimes people do it too early. So that's the first question is, what is your goal? If they're directed to sales, if it's directed towards growth, if it's directed towards brand awareness, then we could probably find some really cool PR campaigns and elements that help promote those different things. But there's a few things that need to be in place before you even ask those questions. Like you really need to have a website that you're very, very happy with. You need to have a business development funnel that you're happy with. Because typically when we get PR, our focus is getting brands into the media and companies into the media. So what we do is we basically tell your story, we pitch it to different media outlets. And if they're interested in talking to you, then they'll say, okay, yeah, let's talk to that person and let's potentially write an article about their company, product, or executive. And if you don't know what to do with that article after it's published, then you're kind of wasting money. So you have to be able to have a call to action to everything. So yeah, I go back and kind of dial it back to what exactly are you trying to achieve? And then let's come up with some cool things that might help you get to those places.
So speaking from our experience, we've had some incidents where, like, for example, we were broad and we wanted to streamline our business and really focus in on some key divisions that we wanted to go after. So when you have a company come to you that might have already, been out for a while and then they want to streamline, what does that process look like as far as like getting the right messaging out to, change the messaging from maybe they have 3 or 4 products and now they're going down to 2. How does that look?
So yeah, we have that problem all the time. It's not really a problem. I guess it's really more of like a reframing of what it is. And we typically, you don't have to have everything can be fluid. It doesn't have to be like a defined message and that's what you're going to have for the rest of your life. I think that's a lot of times in entrepreneurship, you're like, okay, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck with this if I pick this now. The good news is that you can reinvent yourself pretty much every year, every 6 months. You can kind of tailor your message. But what you really want to do is kind of identify that overarching mission and then streamline your message for those products in accordance to the mission of the company, depending on what that is. And if you have like an overarching mission, then I always like to use that as a kind of like touchstone of making sure that you're always feeding the right track. And even for products, you might have different target audiences for each product. So then from that point, we create different campaigns for each product. Like maybe this product is going to a senior community, and that's kind of the directive of that. And maybe this other product is more tailored for the young parents group. So like you can have a pitch for every different product as long as at the end of the day, it kind of all matches up with the overarching mission. Depending on what that is. Let's just say, like, for example, your mission is to inform people on the health benefits of, green tea. And so then you have different people using it for different reasons, right? So there's some people that might be using it for longevity and, health. And then there's some people that might be using it for energy. So you have to be able to understand why people are using those different products, or at least why you think they are. And then what we do from there is kind of hone in on that message so that we can pitch to the right direction and to the right outlets. And so for us, we basically map up your target audience and the stuff that we know that they actually consume, like whether it's social media or an online publication or a magazine. And then we try to get your stuff featured in that spot. But that's the only way to do it, is really to have a defined message and understanding of what those people are or potentially could be looking for.
Ronjini, I wish we had met you about 12 years ago. This would have been perfect. we met you then. But
it's better late than never.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
So, Ronjini, what does your ideal client look like? Right, startups, small, large, medium.
So we do play a lot in the startup space, which is very challenging for the startup and for us. But there's a lot to do there. But we typically go into like startups that have already gotten some kind of funding. So like they are more of like a senior level startup. It might be a mid-sized business as well. We don't only work with startup companies. We work with regular businesses, small to medium-sized businesses for the most part, and then startups that have graduated from seed funding and they have some kind of like Series A funding or something, or they're trying to lock down their Series A. We help a lot of people with their crowdfunding campaigns, equity crowdfunding campaigns, lockdown funding for investors. And we basically help them get into the media so people can start seeing like, oh, this is a legit business. Yes, we want to back them. So we kind of support them in that way as well through PR.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How can people get in contact with you?
Sure. So our website is thesilvertelegram.com, and my email is Ronjini, RONJINI @thesilvertelegram.com. Pretty easy peasy.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll be sure when this goes live that we put that onto the bio section of the actual post so people can get in contact with you. Ronjini, thank you so much for your time and giving all this great information that you've given. Kai and I know you can't see us right now, but we're smiling ear to ear.
Good.
Truly do wish we did meet you about 10, 12 years ago. Probably would have been maybe we would have gotten our trajectory to went a lot faster had we met you back. So I'm sure the listeners are going to be able to benefit quite a bit from this conversation.
Yeah, and I do actually a really cool, like just a quick 45-minute strategy session for anybody who wants to just talk about PR too. I have a lot of free resources online. We have the PR Playbook podcast, which is a podcast about DIY PR, like how you can do it yourself. Right. I'm really, really focused on educating people on the process of PR, what it is, what the media landscape is, because that's one of the hurdles that we have with clients that come in that are hard to work with, is that they just don't understand the environment. And so I like to explain everything to everybody. So we're all on the same playing field. I'm not, it's very transparent. It's just kind of like, there's people who've done this a long time and people who haven't. So you hire the experts to do what they do, but I want everyone to have the same level of knowledge so they know what they're getting into.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe we can get you on the show here soon again in the future.
Yeah. Absolutely. Lovely talking to you guys.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Couple-preneurs Show. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.kothoughtleaders.com.